What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we are checking out the brand new Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra. And shout out to Samsung for getting this to me a little early. I got some brief hands-on time with it and the rest of the S26 lineup after the announcement last week, but it's nice to get my hands on my own device now. I feel like this year in particular, the S26 Ultra has been on the receiving end of a ton of chatter, both about the couple of new, really interesting things this phone offers and a handful of stuff that people feel like is still missing. And I'm gonna go over all of that and everything else you need to know about this new phone. But first things first, like always, let's go ahead and just quickly unbox it, and then we'll dive deep into all the details with this new S26 Ultra. Ripping through those stickers there and sliding off the lid, you're immediately presented with this shiny new S26 Ultra. The color I got is Cobalt Violet, which I'm a big fan of. It's quite purpley. There's nothing else inside the bottom of the box, but stuck inside the lid, there are a couple more things you should dig for. You still get a SIM ejector tool stuck to the outside there, and then a single packet of paperwork and instructions along with the USB-C cable for charging. A pretty familiar unboxing experience that's basically the same as the last couple of years. So as we peel off the last protective layer and power it on, let's talk pricing. The full retail price for this new S26 Ultra is $1,299, and for that price you get 256 gigabytes of storage. You can spec up to 512 gigabytes or 1 terabyte for many hundreds of dollars more, and I suppose it's important to note that this phone didn't see a price increase, unlike the regular S26 and S26 Plus, which are each now $100 more than last year. In addition to this Cobalt Violet color, you also have Sky Blue, white, and black to choose from, along with two Samsung.com exclusive colors, Silver Shadow and Pink Gold. And speaking of Samsung.com, for the next 3 or 4 days at least, you can still pre-order this phone and secure an elevated trade-in offer for your old phone, or get a couple $100 in Samsung Store credit. That would make the new Galaxy Buds 4 Pro free, for example, if you wanted those. Check out my review on those buds, by the way. I think they're a solid upgrade. You could also take the Amazon route and get a $200 gift card, and I'm sure every carrier has their own offer for this phone too. So chances are there's a deal or discount out there for you. I doubt most people are paying full price for this phone, but click the links in the video description below if you want to check in on some of those offers. Now, I think it's fair to say that physically, Samsung's smartphones haven't changed a ton over the last few years, but weirdly enough, this S26 Ultra is the one that changed the most out of the trio. It's still a 6.9-inch device. That's the screen size measured corner to corner, but those corners are much more rounded off now. The phone has lost its very pointy, almost industrial form factor, and side by side with last year's, I think you can notice the difference. For me, this makes the phone feel a little more comfortable, and the real reason for the change actually was to just align this phone with the other S26s. So now all three look basically identical, which you can see even more so when you flip this one around. Aside from the couple of extra lenses, the backside of this phone is identical to the regular S26 and S26 Plus, and if you had them all side by side, other than the slight size difference, it's pretty much impossible to tell them apart. The new Ultra is also a tiny bit thinner than the old Ultra. It's the thinnest Ultra ever at about 7.9 millimeters, but still thicker than last year's super thin Edge phone. And Samsung also ditched the titanium material. They're back to aluminum on the sides and frame, supposedly the toughest aluminum they've ever offered, with Gorilla Armor 2 glass on the front and Gorilla Glass Victus 2 covering the back. There's nothing on the left side of the phone. On the right, your usual power buttons and volume buttons in their familiar spots, a couple mystery pinholes at the top, and at the bottom, the USB-C port for charging alongside the main loudspeaker, the SIM card tray, and the slot for the S Pen. I want to talk about the S Pen for a minute here because Samsung actually did not mention it even once during their keynote announcement, which is both shocking and not all that surprising. The S Pen this year is the same as last year, in so much as that it's not Bluetooth enabled, it's not as smart as it once was a couple of years ago, there's no complex air gestures or camera shutter controls, there's no battery in it. It's still the best writing and drawing experience on a smartphone, and you can use it to navigate the device device, you can pair it with any note app or coloring book or third-party game that you want. But Samsung seems firm now on this being nothing more than a writing stick. And I suppose the feedback from last year wasn't significant enough to make the stylus that super smart and interesting, connected, standout feature that we saw with the S24. But let me know if this was a mistake. I'm really interested to hear from you stylus power users if this changes your perspective on the Ultra. The other thing that I can't believe I have to talk about is how the stylus goes in and out of its little compartment. So since this phone is now a little curvier on the corners, the top end of the stylus, the clicky end, has a slight curve to match the contour of the new phone, which means there is technically a right way and a wrong way to popping the stylus back in. If it's backwards, then the contour of the stylus end goes against the curve of the phone, but it literally doesn't matter. The stylus isn't going to break and the phone isn't going to explode if it goes in the wrong way. You might not even notice. It's a non-issue. And I feel like every year people are just itching to see the stylus cause some sort of a problem. The physical SIM card tray inside the Ultra is just that, a SIM card tray, no micro SD card support, that's been long gone. And like I said earlier, this phone starts at 256 gigabytes of storage, which, yeah, probably should be doubled up at this point considering the price of this thing, but I know there's some pricing pressure on components right now, so it is what it is. Samsung still does ship these phones with a lot of pre-installed apps, a ton of their own, a Microsoft bundle, all the Google apps, and it seems like people still say there are a few too many on here out of the box. The in-display fingerprint sensor for unlocking this phone is still here. It's been the same for quite a few years now actually, and to my knowledge, it isn't any different. It's just as fast and as functional as ever. But the big new feature with the screen, which I'm sure you all know by now, is what Samsung is calling privacy display. You can enable it via the drop-down menu or in the display settings, and you basically get a similar experience to those privacy screen protectors you see some people put on their phones or like on computer screens at work or at the bank. The screen essentially gets blacked out or dimmed out at any angle past about 15 degrees. This makes it so that any looky-loos or peepers can't see what you're doing on your phone. You pretty much have to be looking at the screen face on. And this is a physical screen feature. It's not a film or a screen protector. It's a first for any smartphone. And the way it works is that half the pixels within the display are wide-angle pixels, and the other half are narrow-angle pixels with a sort of lens around them. When privacy display is enabled, the wide-angle pixels are turned off completely, and you only see the narrow-angle pixels. Because it's the actual pixels that are being manipulated, privacy display works from any angle, left and right, up or down. You can switch on the maximum privacy protection feature, which makes the screen even darker, and you even have some conditional privacy screen options. Privacy screen can be automatically turned on when you open certain apps, like your messages, photos, banking apps, literally any app that's installed on your phone. When you type in a PIN or passcode, privacy display can automatically switch on so people don't see that sensitive info in the moment, and you can even enable the privacy display for notifications, so any pop-ups or messages you get will look blacked out while the rest of the screen is still visible. Privacy display is honestly a really cool feature. It does have some caveats though. The screen is a little dimmer with privacy display enabled since half the pixels are switched off, and some of you might have guessed that less pixels means a lower screen resolution, which you can kind of see very up close. But all in all, this is the standout feature for the Ultra this year. It's not available on the other S26s at all, and it's the first, I guess, significant physical feature addition or hardware change in quite a while too. So kudos to Samsung for adding something that really has got a lot of people talking. And there's more to this display that has people talking. In general, the screen on the S26 Ultra for normal day-to-day viewing is basically the same as last year. It's a 6.9-inch dynamic LTPO AMOLED 2X panel with the option to enable Quad HD resolution, 3120 by 1440, and a 120Hz adaptive refresh rate, which is on by default. During our product briefing, I and many other creators and journalists were originally told that both this S26 Ultra and the S26 Plus had been upgraded to native 10-bit displays from 8-bit. But We're now being told that that is in fact not the case, and it's still an 8-bit display that sort of simulates 10-bit. It supports 10-bit color depth. The difference between 8-bit and native 10-bit displays, in easy to understand terms, is the difference between 16.7 million colors and 1 billion colors. It's like looking at a smooth color gradient instead of a banded or lined array of colors. Now, obviously, the S26 Ultra screen doesn't look like a lined array of just a handful of colors. It's a bold, bright, colorful looking screen, just as it always has been. It looks great. It's one of the best viewing experiences you can buy right now, and I dare you to count out 16.7 million different colors on a screen this size, let alone a billion. The 8-bit versus native 10-bit controversy is almost as silly of an issue as the backwards S Pen thing, and I'm sure 95% of you have never even heard of this screen descriptor before, let alone cared about it. But for the small percentage of people who feel like Samsung maybe misrepresented this display, I understand where you're coming from, but I don't think it was done nefariously to try and trick people. I actually think it was just a game of telephone that went wrong. Someone said 10-bit color depth, the next person said it's like 10-bit, and the last person announced 10-bit to the world. All in all, the S26 Ultra has a great flagship display with that additional privacy screen that no other phone offers right now. And spec for spec, even lacking true 10-bit, it's about as beautiful of a screen as you could ask for. It's probably the viewing experience I'd pick just about every time if I had the choice. To pair with the visuals, the S26 Ultra keeps its dual speaker setup, with the main one down below and the secondary one in the earpiece up at the top. And I don't think these speakers have been touched in years, so here's just a super quick sound sample to give you a taste. Now, this year, for the entire S26 lineup, arguably the bulk of what's new is with the software. Frankly, it's AI stuff. But what was once Galaxy AI in a sort of manner that felt like slapped on features and roundabout extras is now more of a fully integrated agentic AI. That's what Samsung calls it, with features fully integrated within apps and your daily workflow, and smarter LLMs, the multitude of options and the ability to even perform tasks on your behalf or potentially before you even think about it. Powering all this stuff is the new Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chip that's made for Galaxy. Samsung stressed that point a lot, that this particular processor was specifically engineered for Samsung's software and the on-device AI processing, and it's paired with 12 gigabytes of RAM or 16 gigs with the 1 terabyte model. These new S26s ship with Samsung's One UI 8.5 update, and you could actually go through and see all the new AI features outlined within the Galaxy AI tab in settings. Some of the standout ones that got demoed were call screening, so better spam and scam protection, and you'll have a little voice assistant to talk to the people on the other end before you pick up a phone call. Photo Assist and Creative Studio, which are basically like having Photoshop and an AI image generator right in your camera roll. You can edit photos using natural language prompts to change or even add, well, almost anything you can think of within a photo, like turning the day into night, or altering the scene entirely, or bringing in a pet or a friend who might have missed the photo. You can also create custom stickers, postcards, and other invites that are sort of cartoon-like. Now Brief has been enhanced, and there's also something called Now Nudge, which are basically suggestions that come up on the keyboard using context and info from on-screen conversations and other on-screen text. So, for example, if your friend is asking for photos from a trip, Now Nudge will show you a direct link to those photos. It's trying to be one step ahead of you. Samsung also demoed a feature with Gemini where it can take control of an app in the background to complete a task, so calling an Uber for you, for example, or ordering food or groceries. There's a lot of AI integration within One UI 8.5 now, and like I said, it does feel more seamlessly integrated within the phone and less in your face or like you have to go out of the way to use it. But I'm curious to see how other people feel about all this, because as of right now, this is probably the most AI-focused phone on the market. If you're anti-AI and just want a super powerful smartphone, well, no worries there. This is about as fast and as capable of a mobile device as you can still get. I think that's what continues to make this Ultra, and Samsung did say that a lot of these new AI features would be exclusive to the S26 series, so if you were looking for one more reason to upgrade, that might be a consideration too. Something else that actually got upgraded on this S26 Ultra specifically is its charging speed. It now supports up to 60-watt wired fast charging over USB-C with the proper plug that you still have to go out and buy yourself. I'll link to it down below in the video description if you want it, but with that proper plug, you can actually charge this phone now from 0 to 75% in 30 minutes, which I believe is the fastest for a Samsung phone up to this point. The other S26s don't charge this fast, and this phone also now supports 25-watt wireless charging with a Qi 2.2 standard, but still no magnetic charging on device, no MagSafe-like feature, which is just crazy at this point. You still need to go out and get one of those magnetically supported cases that Samsung sells to make this phone magnetically capable. I'm shocked Samsung hasn't stolen this feature yet. And inside, the phone battery is the same 5,000 milliamp hour size as last year. It's not any new battery tech or anything like that, but battery life should generally be a little better on this phone with the upgraded processor and additional software enhancements. Finally, it wouldn't be a new Samsung phone without some camera upgrades. And while Samsung did talk a lot about how much better the cameras were on this new S26 Ultra, I think your mileage may vary depending on how pro of a user you are. The hardware around back is essentially the same. There's a 200 megapixel main lens, 10 megapixel telephoto, 50 megapixel periscope, and 50 megapixel wide angle. The selfie camera is also identical to last year. What's new is a slight enhancement to the aperture on the main lens and the periscope lens. Basically, regular shots and 5x optical zoomed in shots should look brighter, especially in low light and at night. They're able to let in more light and capture more detail. Besides that, there are quite a few add-ons within Expert RAW, APV capabilities, additional 8K video formats, even an ocean mode, which takes the blue hue out of your underwater shots, amongst many other pro photo and video add-ons. Now, to be honest, I'm not the intended audience for those new features, so I'll leave that to the actual photo and video experts to break down, but I've already taken about 200 photos with this phone over the last week, and what's interesting to me is just how much brighter a lot of the photos tend to look, especially in the dead of night. Maybe a little too bright. I mean, at night, the sky is black, not blue, and the stars are not visible above bright city lights. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on with some of these pictures, but most of them look really good. You'll see a lot of the low light enhancements with video too, and I'm excited to put this phone to the test in the coming weeks and compare it to both last year's Ultra and some other devices to see if the camera enhancements are significant enough for the more average smartphone users. Between the trio of S26s this year, all the focus was on this one, the Ultra, but as I explained earlier, the bulk of the changes and talking points were centered around software and AI. The spec sheet upgrades, like the faster charging, faster processor, minor redesign, and small camera enhancements, probably aren't enough to sway last year's Ultra owners to upgrade, but the new privacy display just might be, and if most of the One UI 8.5 AI updates are reserved for this S26 series like Samsung suggests, perhaps altogether that all makes this new Ultra a worthwhile upgrade. But what do you guys think? Will you be picking up any of the new S26 phones this year? Did you pre-order yours already, or are you skipping them and holding off for maybe one more year? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video though. Be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.